The Kalin Collective had known peace for over 3,000 years. Their crystalline ships drifted gracefully through the Andorian nebula, powered by harmonic energy that sang through their translucent hulls. These vessels weren't built for war. They were works of art, designed to harvest starlight and cultivate the floating gardens that fed their people. Commander Hannah pressed her six-fingered hand against the cool surface of her ship's command crystal. Through it, she could feel the terror of her people across 17 star systems. The Kalin communicated through bioelectric pulses, sharing emotions and thoughts as easily as humans shared words. Right now, that gift felt like a curse. Fear, pain, death. The sensations flooded through the crystalline network that connected every Kalin ship and settlement. Her people were dying, and she felt each loss like a dagger to her three hearts. "Commander," her navigation officer Kelu whispered, his normally blue skin now pale as moonstone. "The Vorthan dreadnoughts have surrounded Kalin Prime. Our defense satellites, they're gone." Through the viewing portal, Hannah could see the massive Vorthan warships approaching like metallic vultures. Each one was the size of a small moon, bristling with plasma cannons and void torpedoes. Their hulls were black as the space between stars, designed to inspire terror in their enemies. The Vorthans had appeared 6 months ago at the edge of Kalin space. At first, they seemed like explorers, strange beings in powered armor who claimed to seek knowledge. The Kalin, being naturally trusting, had welcomed them with gifts of crystal art and songs of greeting. That trust had been repaid with slaughter. The first attack came without warning. Vorthan battle cruisers had descended upon the agricultural world of Seren III during harvest season. The Kalin farmers had no weapons, no shields, no way to fight back. They had simply stood in their fields of singing grass, watching in confusion as the sky filled with enemy ships. The Vorthans hadn't even bothered to make demands. They had simply begun firing. Hannah remembered receiving the desperate transmissions from Seren III. Families begging for evacuation, children crying for their parents, the colony's elders singing death songs as their crystalline cities shattered under orbital bombardment. By the time Kalin defense ships arrived, there was nothing left but glowing craters and the echoes of screams. "Status of the evacuation fleet?" Hannah asked, trying to keep her voice steady. 70% of our people are aboard the transport crystals," Kelu reported. "But the children, Commander, most of them are still in the deep caverns of Kalin. Prime, the Vorthans are jamming our communication crystals. We can't reach them." Hannah closed her eyes and felt the pulse of young minds far below on her home world. Thousands of Kalin children huddled in the ancient cave systems, their parents having hidden them there when the attacks began. These caves had protected her people during meteor storms and solar flares for millennia. Now they served as shelters from a different kind of disaster. The Vorthan flagship, a massive dreadnought called the Iron Fist, moved into position above Kalin Prime. Its captain, a cybernetic warrior named General Vex, had broadcast his intentions clearly. He would demonstrate Vorthan power by reducing the planet to space dust. Any survivors would serve as slaves in their mining colonies. "They're charging their planet cracker cannon," Kelu whispered. 2 minutes until they can fire." Hannah looked around the bridge of her ship, the Harmony's voice. Her crew of 12 had served together for decades. They were scientists, artists, and gardeners who had been forced to become warriors. Their crystalline vessel wasn't equipped for battle. It carried sensors for studying nebulae, not weapons for destroying enemies, but it did have the most powerful quantum transmitter in the fleet. "Route all power to the long-range communications array," Hannah ordered. "Every system except life support." "Commander, that will leave us defenseless," her engineer Mira protested. "We're already defenseless," Hannah replied. "But maybe someone out there isn't." She moved to the transmission chamber, a spherical room lined with resonating crystals. As she stepped inside, the crystals began to glow with soft blue light. The quantum transmitter would amplify her thoughts and send them racing across the galaxy faster than light itself. Hannah had heard stories of other species, rumors of worlds beyond the Kalin territories. Ancient navigation charts spoke of aggressive races like the Zenth Horde and the Machine Collective, but there were other names too, mysterious species that remained hidden in the outer reaches of the galaxy. She began to speak, pouring all of her desperation and hope into the transmission. The crystals around her pulsed brighter with each word, encoding her message into quantum particles that would scatter across 1,000 star systems. The signal raced through hyperspace, bouncing off relay stations and ancient communication beacons. It passed through sectors controlled by the Silicon Brotherhood, who analyzed it briefly, before deciding the Kalin weren't worth their attention. It crossed the borders of the Feathered Empire, whose bird-like inhabitants were too busy with their own civil war to care about distant genocide. Finally, after traveling for 17 hours through the cosmic void, the signal reached a small, blue-green planet orbiting a yellow star. The world was covered in swirling white clouds and vast oceans. Ancient radio telescopes on its surface had been listening to space for centuries, operated by a species that called themselves humans. Deep, in the Earth's mountains, in a facility hidden from the world above, computers registered the alien transmission. Technicians scrambled to decode the message as their supervisors contacted military leaders across the planet. For the first time in human history, they had received a cry for help from the stars. And for the first time in the galaxy's history, those who answered that cry would prove that sometimes the most dangerous species could also be the most merciful. The underground command center, buried 3 miles beneath the Colorado mountains, had never seen activity like this. Admiral Minho Kim stood in the center of the war room, watching dozens of screens display alien star charts and intercepted enemy communications. The facility had been built to monitor Earth's own conflicts, but now it buzzed with preparations for humanity's first interstellar war. "Play the transmission again," Kim ordered, his weathered face grim as he studied the holographic display. Lieutenant Yoonji Park's fingers danced across her console, and Commander Hana's desperate voice filled the room once more. But this time, they could see the accompanying visual data that their quantum computers had finally decoded. The images made even hardened military officers look away. Kalin cities reduced to glowing craters, crystalline ships torn apart by massive weapons, children's bodies floating in the void of space. "The translation matrix is still working on their language," reported Dr. Gina, the head of Earth's Xenolinguistics department. "But the emotional content is clear. These Kalin people are completely peaceful. They have no military, no weapons designed for warfare. They're being slaughtered like animals." Captain Daeho Lim activated the tactical display, showing a 3-dimensional map of the local galaxy. Red markers indicated Vorthan-controlled systems spreading like an infection across the star chart. Intelligence suggests the Vorthans are a machine-enhanced species, cybernetic warriors who view organic life as inferior. They don't conquer for resources or territory. They kill for the sake of killing. Admiral Kim had spent 40 years in Earth's military, rising through the ranks during the resource wars and the Arctic conflict. He'd seen humanity at its worst and best, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. The weight of an entire species' survival rested on his shoulders. "Sir," called Major Sung Ho Kang from the communications array, "we're intercepting Vorthan military chatter. They're calling this operation the Great Cleansing. Their goal is the complete elimination of what they call soft species from the galaxy." Around the command center, Earth's best military minds worked frantically to understand their new enemy. The Vorthans were unlike anything from human science fiction. They weren't interested in conquest or slavery. They were genocidal perfectionists who believed the galaxy should belong only to mechanically enhanced beings. "What's our fleet status?" Kim asked, turning to Fleet Commander Yura An. 67 ships ready for deep space deployment," she reported crisply. "Our newest vessels, the Dreadnought-class carriers, equipped with fusion drives and plasma shields. Each one carries a full squadron of Raptor fighters and enough firepower to level a small moon." The Admiral studied Earth's fleet composition on the central display. Humanity had spent decades perfecting the art of warfare, driven by their own violent history. Their ships were designed by veterans of orbital combat, engineers who understood that space battles were won by speed, firepower, and tactical thinking. "The Vorthans won't expect us," observed Colonel Min-Soo John, Earth's chief strategy officer. "They've been fighting peaceful species for months, agricultural worlds, scientific colonies, artists, and philosophers. They've never faced a military power. Kim nodded slowly. Humanity's reputation for violence had always been their shame, but now it might be the galaxy's salvation. While other species had evolved beyond warfare, humans had refined it into a deadly science. "Upload everything we know about the Vorthans to the fleet databases," he ordered. "I want tactical analyses of their ship designs, weapon systems, and battle formations. These cybernetic killers are about to learn what real predators look like." The command center's massive screens shifted to show Earth's orbital shipyards, where the final preparations for departure were underway. Sleek warships hung in zero gravity like sleeping sharks, their hulls bristling with missile launchers and energy cannons. Fighter squadrons practiced attack runs around the moon, their pilots pushing the limits of human endurance in high-gravity maneuvers. Lieutenant Park looked up from her station, her face pale. "Admiral, we're receiving new transmissions from Kalin space. The Vorthans have begun attacking civilian evacuation ships. They're targeting the children specifically." The room fell silent, except for the hum of computers and the distant vibration of machinery. Every person in the command center understood what this meant. The Vorthans weren't just conquering territory. They were systematically erasing entire bloodlines to prevent any possibility of resistance. Kim thought about his own daughter, safe in her university dormitory in Seoul. He imagined her hiding in caves while mechanical monsters hunted her from orbit. The rage that filled him was shared by every human in the room. "How long until the fleet is ready?" he asked quietly. 18 hours for final weapons loading and crew assignments," Commander Ahn replied. "But sir, the Kalin worlds are 3 weeks away at maximum burn. We might be too late." "Then we'll mourn them properly by making sure this never happens again," Kim said, his voice carrying the weight of absolute conviction. "But first, we're going to show these Vorthans what happens when you threaten the innocent in front of humans." He turned to address the entire command center, his voice rising so everyone could hear. "For millions of years, our species fought for survival on a hostile world. We battled predators, plagues, and each other. We learned to hunt in packs to protect our young and to never give up when everything seemed hopeless." The Admiral's eyes blazed with determination as he continued. "Today, we take those instincts to the stars. The Vorthans think they're the apex predators of this galaxy. They're about to discover they're wrong." He pressed his palm against the command console, activating Earth's first interstellar military deployment. Across the planet, warships began their final preparations for a journey that would either save the Kalin Collective or die trying. "Signal all vessels," Kim commanded. "Operation Guardian Angel is a go. We launch in 18 hours. Humanity was going to war among the stars, and the galaxy would never be the same. The space around the dying red giant star Kepler 442 looked like a graveyard of dreams. Dozens of Kalin refugee ships drifted in the cosmic darkness, their once beautiful, crystalline hulls now cracked and darkened by plasma burns. Some vessels barely held together, held in place only by emergency force fields and the desperate prayers of their passengers. Commander Hana stood on the bridge of her damaged ship, the Harmony's voice, watching her sensors detect something impossible. Massive energy signatures were approaching through hyperspace, signatures unlike anything in the Kalin database. The ships that emerged from the swirling blue-white portal were unlike anything she had ever seen. The human fleet materialized. In perfect formation, 67 warships arranged in a protective diamond pattern around the refugee vessels. These weren't the elegant, artistic craft of peaceful species. They were predators made of metal and energy, designed by minds that understood warfare as both science and art. The lead vessel, Earth's flagship Harmony, was a massive dreadnought, stretching over 2 kilometers in length. Its angular hull bristled, with weapon systems and sensor arrays, painted in the deep blue and silver colors of the Terran Defense Force. Smaller destroyers and cruisers flanked it like wolves protecting their pack leader. "By the ancient songs," whispered Kelu, Hana's navigation officer. His normally steady voice trembled as he watched the human ships take defensive positions around the refugee fleet. What manner of beings are these? Through the bioelectric network that connected all Kalin minds, Hana could feel the terror of her people. The approaching vessels radiated power and barely contained violence. Energy readings showed weapons capable of cracking planets and shields that could withstand the fury of a star. But then something unexpected happened. Captain Arin Seo's face appeared on the main viewer, transmitted through a communication beam that somehow interfaced perfectly with Kalan technology. He was clearly a predator species, forward-facing eyes designed for hunting, a muscular frame built for combat, facial features that spoke of countless generations of evolutionary warfare. Yet when he spoke, his voice carried something the Kalan had never heard from a warrior species: genuine compassion. "Commander Hana," Captain Seo said. His words translated through quantum processing systems that somehow captured not just meaning but emotional intent. "I am Captain Seo of the Earth vessel Harmony. We received your call for help. My people understand what it means to fight for survival." Hana's 3 hearts hammered against her ribs as she responded. "Captain Seo, we are grateful for your response, but you should know the Vorthan Empire commands thousands of warships. They have conquered 17 star systems. If you help us, they will turn their attention to your world." The human captain's expression hardened, but his eyes remained kind. "Commander, my species has a saying: evil triumphs when good people do nothing. We didn't come here to weigh the odds. We came here to stop genocide." What happened next would be remembered throughout Kalan history as the Day of Impossible Kindness. The human ships moved among the refugee vessels with precision that seemed almost supernatural. Medical frigates approached the most damaged Kalan ships, their docking bays opening to reveal field hospitals, staffed by human doctors and nurses. Engineering vessels deployed repair drones that began patching hull breaches and restoring power. Systems Dr. Minju Han, the fleet's chief medical officer, was among the first humans to board a Kalan ship. The refugee vessel was packed beyond capacity, with families who had fled the destruction of their homeworld. Children huddled against their parents, their normally blue skin pale with malnutrition and fear. "They're beautiful," Dr. Han whispered to her assistant as they set up their mobile medical station. The Kalan were tall and graceful, with 6-fingered hands and large eyes that reflected intelligence and gentleness. And they're starving. The human medical teams worked without rest, treating injuries caused by Vorthan weapons and malnutrition. From weeks in overcrowded ships, they shared their own food supplies, military rations that tasted like paradise to refugees who had been surviving on emergency algae paste. Lieutenant Ji-Hoon Park, a young engineer from the repair ship constructor, found himself working alongside Kalan technicians to restore power to a damaged transport. The aliens watched in amazement as he bypassed their delicate crystal-based systems with human engineering, crude but effective solutions that got the job done. "Your technology is so different from ours," observed Mira, a Kalan engineer whose ship had been nearly destroyed escaping Vorthan forces. "Ours grows and sings, yours fights and protects." Park smiled as he welded a new power coupling into place. "Maybe that's why we're meant to work together. You create beauty, we prevent others from destroying it." Captain Seo established his command post on Commander Hana's ship, creating an impromptu alliance between 2 species that had never imagined each other's existence. Through the Kalan bioelectric network, he could feel the gradual shift from terror to hope as his people proved their intentions through actions. "Your species confuses us," Hana admitted as they studied star charts together. "You are clearly apex predators, designed for warfare. Your ships radiate death and destruction, yet you risk everything to help strangers." Captain Seo looked out at the human fleet, where medical ships continued transferring supplies to refugee vessels, while escort fighters patrolled the perimeter. "Commander, my species learned something important during our own dark history. The strong have 2 choices. They can prey on the weak, or they can protect them. We chose protection." A Kalan child, no more than 8 years old in human terms, approached Captain Seo with something in her 6-fingered hands. It was a small crystal that sang with soft harmonics, a traditional gift of gratitude among her people. The captain knelt down to accept the gift, his warrior's hands gentle as he received the delicate offering. Around them, Kalan and human crews worked side by side, sharing food, stories, and hope. For the first time in galactic history, a predator species had chosen to use their strength not for conquest, but for compassion. The Vorthans would soon Learn that there were different kinds of apex predators in the universe, and some of them fought not just to kill but to save. The Xerion system blazed with the light of 1,000 suns as energy weapons lit up the cosmic darkness. General Yuna Choi stood on the bridge of the flagship Defiance, watching her tactical display track 43 Vorthan warships arranged in a killing formation around the gas giant's largest moon. Trapped between them and the planet's gravity well were the last 300 Kalin evacuation ships, crystalline vessels packed with over 2 million refugees. Enemy fleet composition analysis complete, reported Commander Seokmin Kwon from his tactical station. 12 heavy dreadnoughts, 18 battle cruisers, and 13 destroyer squadrons. They've got us outnumbered 2-1. General Choi studied the enemy formation with the cold calculation of a predator sizing up its prey. The Vorthans had arranged themselves in the classic hammer and anvil pattern, a devastating formation designed to crush fleeing enemies against an immovable barrier. It was textbook military strategy, perfect for destroying helpless refugees. But the humans weren't refugees. "Signal the fleet," Choi ordered, her voice carrying across the command network to 67 human warships. "Operation Thunderpack is now active. Remember, our primary objective is the safety of civilian vessels. Secondary objective is teaching these mechanical butchers what happens when they threaten innocent lives." The Vorthan flagship Iron Talon hung like a metallic spider at the center of their formation. Its commander, General Zeklos, was a cybernetic warrior whose body was more machine than flesh. He had conquered 14 star systems in the past year, each victory adding to his reputation as an unstoppable force of destruction. "Organic vessels approaching," his tactical android reported in mechanical tones. "Configuration unknown. Energy. Signatures suggest primitive fusion-based technology." Zeklos laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Primitives trying to rescue other primitives. Destroy them quickly so we can return to the cleansing operation." The Vorthan fleet began its advance, plasma cannons charging and missile tubes loading. Their ships were technological marvels, sleek vessels powered by antimatter cores and protected by quantum shields. Each one was a perfect killing machine designed to eliminate organic life with maximum efficiency. They had never fought humans before. Captain Jiwon Han led the first wave of attack, commanding Raptor Squadron from the cockpit of his advanced fighter craft. 24 human pilots followed him in perfect formation, their ships moving through space like a pack of wolves surrounding their prey. "Remember your training," Han's voice crackled over the squadron frequency. "We hunt together. We strike together. We protect each other. These Vorthans think they're apex predators. Time to show them what real hunters look like." The Raptor fighters accelerated to combat speed, their fusion engines leaving trails of blue fire across the darkness. But instead of attacking the enemy head-on, they scattered into smaller groups, using the asteroid field around Xerion's moon as cover. "What are they doing?" Zeklos demanded as his sensors tracked the dispersing human fighters. "Why aren't they engaging in formation combat?" His question was answered when the first Vorthan destroyer exploded in a burst of orange flame. "Captain." Han's fighters had struck from 3 different angles simultaneously, their coordinated missile strikes overwhelming the vessel's shields in seconds. Before the enemy could respond, the human fighters vanished back into the asteroid field. "Impossible," Zeklos snarled. "No species fights like this. Where is their honor? Where is their formation discipline?" He was thinking like a machine, expecting logical, predictable tactics, but humans had learned warfare from millions of years of hunting on a deadly planet. They thought like predators, not computers. The main human fleet engaged moments later, and the Vorthans discovered that Earth's warships were just as unconventional as their fighters. Instead of the traditional line of battle formation, the human vessels moved in fluid, organic patterns that seemed almost alive. The flagship Defiance led a spearhead formation directly at the Vorten center, its plasma cannons and missile batteries unleashing devastating volleys. But as the enemy moved to counter this obvious threat, human destroyers struck from unexpected angles, exploiting gaps in the Vorthan formation with surgical precision. Colonel Taehyun Yu coordinated the assault from the Tactical Command Center, his fingers dancing across holographic displays as he orchestrated the battle like a deadly symphony. Echo Squadron target their sensor arrays. Delta Wing disable their communication relays. We don't just want to beat them, we want them confused and isolated. The Vorthans found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to follow the rules of civilized warfare. Human ships would suddenly accelerate beyond safe limits, their crews enduring crushing G-forces to gain tactical advantage. Fighter pilots performed maneuvers that should have been physically impossible, pushing their machines and bodies to the absolute breaking point. But the most shocking thing wasn't how the humans fought. It was what they chose not to fight. "General," reported Lieutenant Hyejin Nam from the communications station, "the humans are broadcasting on all Vortan frequencies. They're offering safe passage to any ship that surrenders and releases its prisoners." Choi nodded grimly. "Make sure those messages get through to every Vorthan vessel. We're not here to commit genocide, even against genocidal machines. We're here to stop it." 3 Vorthan cruisers, their shields failing and hulls breached, actually accepted the human offer. Instead of destroying the helpless vessels, human. Medical ships moved in to assist with evacuation procedures. Vorthan prisoners were treated with the same care as human wounded. "This is madness," Zeklos transmitted to his remaining ships. "They fight like demons, but they spare enemies. They show mercy to those who would show them none. What manner of species is this?" The answer came when the human assault reached its climax. General Choi had maneuvered her fleet into perfect position, trapping the remaining Vorthan forces in a crossfire between the human battle line and the gas giant's gravity well. One final coordinated strike would eliminate the enemy completely. Instead, she opened communications to the entire battlefield. "Attention all vessels," her voice rang out across both fleets. "We are establishing safe corridors for the evacuation of non-combatant personnel. Any ship, Vorthan or Kalin, that wishes to withdraw from combat may do so without interference." The galaxy watched in amazement as human forces, on the verge of total victory, chose to prioritize the saving of lives over the destruction of enemies. Fighter squadrons that could have finished off damaged Vorthan ships instead escorted refugee vessels to safety. Medical frigates treated wounded from both sides equally. General Zeklos, his flagship burning and his fleet scattered, could only stare in confusion at sensors showing human ships actively protecting Vorthan survivors. In his mechanical mind, programmed for efficient killing, such behavior was incomprehensible. He was witnessing something the galaxy had never seen before, warriors who fought not for conquest or glory, but for an idea. The idea that strength should protect the weak, that victory without mercy was not victory at all. The humans had won more than a battle at Zerion. They had introduced a new concept to galactic warfare, the notion that true apex predators knew when not to kill. The Vorthan Prime system was a fortress of metal and death, surrounded by the largest concentration of warships the galaxy had ever seen. Emperor Malthus had called back every fleet, every battle group, every hunter-killer squadron, to defend his throne world. Over 3,000 Vorthan vessels formed defensive rings around the planet, like the coils of a massive mechanical serpent. Admiral Minho Kim stood on the bridge of his flagship Defiance, studying the tactical display with grim determination. Beside him, Commander Hana watched through the bioelectric network as her surviving people prepared for what might be their final battle. The combined human Kalin armada numbered only 400 ships, but they carried something the Vorthans had never faced: the fury of those who fight for justice rather than conquest. Intelligence reports confirm Emperor Malthus is personally commanding the defense, reported Captain Do-Yun Lee from the tactical station. His flagship Oblivion measures 8 kilometers in length and carries enough firepower to sterilize a continent. The Emperor himself was a terrifying sight, a being who had replaced 90% of his original body with mechanical components designed for war. His cybernetic brain processed tactical data at superhuman speed, while his armored form towered 3 meters tall. He ruled the Vorthan Empire not through politics or diplomacy, but through absolute technological superiority and the systematic elimination of all who opposed him. "Status of the Kalin support fleet?" Admiral Kim asked. 200 crystalline vessels standing by, Commander Hana replied. Our ships cannot match Vorthon firepower, but our harmonic weapons can disrupt their cybernetic systems. We will sing the song of war alongside your people. The first phase of the battle began in the outer asteroid belt, where Vorthon patrol squadrons met the advancing human fleet. Lieutenant Somin Kang led Phoenix Squadron through the rocky maze, her fighters' sensors tracking enemy movements with predatory precision. Contact bearing 27 Mark IV, she called over the squadron frequency. Vorthon heavy cruiser, shield strength at maximum. Looks like they're trying to flank our main force. Kang's Raptor fighter was a work of art and science combined. Sleek hull designed for maximum speed, weapon systems that could punch through capital ship armor, and a pilot trained in the ancient human art of aerial combat. She rolled her craft through a narrow canyon between two massive asteroids, using the terrain to mask her approach. The Vorthon cruiser never saw her coming. Two perfectly placed antimatter torpedoes struck its engine section, sending the kilometer-long vessel tumbling into the asteroid field, where it exploded in a brilliant flash of orange fire. One down, Kang reported calmly. Moving to secondary target. The main battle erupted as both fleets met in the space between Vorthon Prime's two largest moons. Energy weapons turned the darkness into a light show of destruction as plasma cannons and missile launchers exchanged death across the void. Vorthon ships fought with mechanical precision, their cybernetic crews calculating optimal firing solutions with computer-like accuracy. But the humans fought with something the machines couldn't understand: intuition, creativity, and the wild unpredictability of organic minds pushed to their limits. Major Hyunwoo Jang commanded the assault transport Thunder's Edge as it approached a disabled Vorthon dreadnought. His Marine battalion was tasked with capturing the vessel's command center and accessing its tactical databases. Remember the rules of engagement, Jang told his troops as they prepared for boarding action. We disable, we capture, we preserve. Life when possible. These cybernetic warriors may be our enemies, but they're still sentient beings. The Thunder's Edge latched onto the Vorthon ship's hull with magnetic grapples, cutting through armor plating with fusion torches. Jang led the assault team through the breach, moving through corridors that hummed with alien technology and the sound of damaged systems. The Vorthon crew fought back with desperate efficiency, their cybernetic enhancements allowing them to fire weapons with superhuman accuracy. But human Marines had trained for close-quarters combat in environments ranging from Earth's urban jungles to the methane swamps of Europa. They moved like ghosts through the enemy ship, using cover and teamwork to overcome technological superiority. Command. Center secured, Jang reported as his team disabled the last Vorthon defenders with stun weapons rather than lethal force. Beginning data extraction now. The battle raged for 3 days across the entire system. Human and Kalin ships working in perfect coordination, exploiting every weakness in the Vorthon defensive grid. Fighter squadrons led by pilots like Lieutenant Kang carved through enemy formations like sharks through a school of fish. Marine units captured strategic targets while minimizing casualties on both sides. On the third day, Emperor Malthus himself entered the battle aboard the massive flagship. Oblivion. The vessel was less a ship than a mobile weapon platform, bristling with planet-killer cannons and protected by shields that could withstand the explosion of a small star. All vessels, concentrate fire on the enemy flagship, Admiral Kim ordered. Take down those shields so we can disable their main weapons. The combined fleet focused their attack on the Emperor's ship, but its defenses seemed impenetrable. Plasma bolts and missile strikes scattered harmlessly against quantum barriers, while the Oblivion's return fire devastated entire squadrons. Then Commander Hana had an idea that would change everything. "Admiral," she said, her voice carrying urgent hope, "our crystalline ships can generate harmonic frequencies that disrupt cybernetic neural networks. If we coordinate our song with your weapons fire—" "Do it," Kim replied without hesitation. The Kalin fleet moved into formation around the human ships, their crystalline hulls beginning to glow with soft blue light. Ancient harmonic weapons that had never been designed for warfare suddenly sang with a frequency that made cybernetic implants malfunction and artificial intelligences stutter. The effect on the Vorthon fleet was immediate and devastating. Ship. After ship began to lose coordination as their cybernetic crews experienced system failures. The mighty Oblivion itself shuddered as Emperor Malthus felt his own mechanical components rebel against the alien song. Admiral Kim seized the moment. All ships, final assault. Disable their weapons and communication systems. The human fleet struck like a pack of wolves, exploiting the confusion to cripple the Vorthan defenses without destroying them completely. When the Oblivion's shields finally failed, human marines boarded the flagship not to kill the Emperor, but to accept his surrender. What happened next shocked the entire galaxy. Instead of executing the defeated Vorthan leadership or claiming their territory as spoils of war, the humans did something unprecedented. They established refugee camps for displaced Vorthan civilians, whose worlds had been devastated by their own government's wars. Human medical teams treated wounded enemy soldiers alongside their own casualties. Engineers from Earth worked to restore damaged infrastructure on conquered Vorthan worlds. Commander Hanna stood beside Admiral Kim on the bridge of the Defiance, watching human relief ships distribute food and medical supplies to former enemies. Through the bioelectric network, she could feel the amazement of her people as they witnessed mercy on a scale that the galaxy had never imagined. "Your species puzzles us beyond understanding," she said quietly. "You are the most dangerous predators the galaxy has ever known, capable of destroying entire fleets and conquering star systems. Yet you choose to heal rather than harm, to build rather than destroy." Admiral Kim watched a human medical frigate dock with a damaged Vorthan transport, carrying supplies for children who had been raised to hate everything organic. "Maybe that's what the universe needed all along," he replied. "Someone willing to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves." The Vorthan Empire was dissolved, its war criminals tried by a joint tribunal, and its people given the chance to build a new civilization based on cooperation rather than conquest. The Kalen Collective was not just saved, but strengthened by their alliance with humanity. And across the galaxy, species that had lived in fear of stronger neighbors began to hope that perhaps the age of predators was ending, replaced by an era of protectors. The humans had proven that true strength came not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to know when mercy was mightier than any weapon. The end.